These winds are wearing us down, and for more than 80,000 XL customers, it is a night in the dark. For many, not their first this week. Again, we have hurricane-force winds whipping the foothills. Wind gusts reached 112 miles per hour in Boulder today. Trees were getting ripped out of their roots. National Weather Service added what's called a particularly dangerous situation tag to its fire weather warning today. First time they've ever done that in Colorado. And that warning stays in place through midnight. Denver proper will see its strongest winds of the day later tonight. Let's get straight to meteorologist Chris Bianchi. Knock on plexiglass, man. I mean, based on the way things shaped up this morning, it looks like people have made smart decisions, right? Not being stupid with fire, some quick saves by firefighters here and there, and a little bit of a shift in the weather pattern.
I guess optimistically, the way I want to see it is that I think the heightened messaging hopefully got across, because today was an ominous looking day. Bone dry, winds like this. I don't have to tell you, it's been bone dry December for us as well, since it snowed back in the first week of December. Otherwise, been bone dry. We've been in the 60s and 70s, but we had an 112 mile an hour wind gust there in South Boulder around 3 p.m. about 3 hours ago. But the good news is, again, knock on wood, that we are past the worst of the wind, and we're starting to mix down those winds into the metro area. So again, in Denver, I just dropped my clicker. I was so excited about the fact that we haven't had anything big yet, but the Denver area, the proper metro area, our strongest winds, we'll get through. Oh, my producer's laughing in my ear here, Mallory is, but 40, 50 mile an hour winds will pick up for us tonight. So again, in Denver, we haven't seen a ton of wind yet. That will change over the next couple of hours. Foothills, the worst of the wind, over and done with, but the fire danger remains for the next few hours. Even if we're still only talking about 60 mile an hour winds, that's enough to prop up fire. So again, we're not out of the woods yet, but things are, knock on wood, looking pretty good for us. Now, other thing about today, we topped out at 69. That broke our daily record set back in 2023. One other thing to watch for is we will have some gusty winds and snow for us in the mountains. Winter weather advisory for tomorrow. Snow will be strongest for us in the morning hours. And as we all dreamt about, that 7-day forecast, I think everybody's been asking for a 67-degree Christmas day, didn't we? Well, that's what you're going to get. Temperatures mostly in the 60s all next week.
Bianchi, man, 2 hands on that clicker. You're in the meteorological red zone, all right? You can't be dropping the rock in the meteorological red zone, all right?
Yeah, all right. Mallory laughing in my ear is my favorite part, by the way.
Thank you, Bianchi. Appreciate it. Well, Democratic Governor Jared Polis has strong words for XL Energy's handling of the preemptive blackouts during the high winds. In fact, they are pretty much the exact same strong words the governor used last year when XL did the same thing. So you can bet XL's really quaking in their boots. Today, Polis demanded more transparency and clear communication. A year ago, he demanded full transparency and that XL effectively communicate. Today, the governor said utility companies must provide clear and up-to-date information. Last year, the governor said XL must ensure residents are adequately notified. Today, Polis said, I plan to address my concerns with the utility. So we'll wait and see if that has any more impact than last year's strongly worded letter from the governor. I'll say this, thank goodness everybody's toilets still work when the power's out, because when, and I will be delicate, I understand this is dinner time. When all that stuff rolls downhill to the treatment plants, those places absolutely need to have power. And last year, during an outage, Boulder got caught with its plants down. Our Marshall Zellinger joins us now from South Boulder with the city's new backup plan, Marshall, to avoid an excrement storm of sorts.
Yeah, the backup to prevent backups is more backups. As you say, we're in South Boulder near Table Mesa and Broadway. Power's still on here. The neighborhoods still have power. So for the people at home eating dinner, flushing their toilets, all the water and all that crap go downhill east of here to a wastewater facility plant that still also has power. That wastewater facility plant is served by 2 XL substations, and today 5 backup generators just in case. In April 2024, both substations that served the wastewater plant were shut down in Xcel's first ever public safety power shutoff. The city got Xcel to turn one substation back on just before the dirty water overflowed to Boulder Creek. The Deputy Utility Operations Director told me communication ahead of time now with Xcel has been great, except for a surprise briefly at 5:30 a.m.
This morning they actually had a little bit of an operational blunder, and the one feed did go off for this facility. They quickly restored it.
Chris Duvel told me that he was not expecting either substation to be shut down this morning. He said one was briefly shut off and they could switch things around to be powered by number 2. I asked Xcel about it, and the spokeswoman told me nothing happened other than adjustments to their system and that minimal customers were impacted, Kyle.
All right, minimal customers impacted. One of the few times Xcel's been able to say that this week. Marshall Zellinger, thank you. So where annoyance starts to turn into danger is when people lose power and don't get it back for days, right? And there are Coloradans who got shut off or got cut off, planned or unplanned outages that began Wednesday that still continue tonight with no end in sight. Our Spencer Soyser joins us now from Jefferson County. You were up in Indian Hills there, Spencer, and found some rightfully frustrated folks.
Yeah, they were angry, and the weather there, the wind there, kind of like it is here in Arvada right now, where there's a couple of strong gusts, but nothing super sustained. I spoke with 3 different families that told me they haven't had power since Wednesday, and that the longer that this goes on, the more difficult it is to live their lives. Nobody wants to be left in the dark.
I had candles all over the place until the candles ran out.
For anyone in the dark, hopefully they're not alone.
Yeah, this is their picture. Leslie.
Joe Del Cueto is one of the thousands of Xcel Energy customers without power. But who knows how many are doing it by themselves.
Leslie's my wife. We came from New York, and she passed away from cancer in 2017.
Being alone in the cold and dark is too much.
Oh, there's under this, and under this.
Joe still lives in the 100-year-old Indian Hills home he moved into in 1994, but it's not where he's sleeping anymore.
And then last night I stayed in a motel, and I could go get a warm burrito, so that was good.
Friday night will be the second straight night he feels he can't sleep at his home.
I don't want to do it right now because I don't want to get sick.
Even with warmer temperatures outside, his power isn't expected back on tonight.
As you get older, you realize this is just a big hazard.
31 years of nights in this house.
The insulation is really crappy.
But tonight will not be one of them. Joe could sell his old home, the one with no power since Wednesday. But it's a place he stuck out storms in the dark with his closest friend.
That's one of the reasons I don't get rid of this place. All right, our spirit is here.
Now, Joe's home still has water, but some of the other people we spoke to in that area today rely on well water, and without power, they're not able to use their pumps. Another person told me they're used to having no power in that area. It's usually during like a snowstorm where they might lose some power, but they're able to grab snow and flush that down the toilet or maybe melt some of the snow. When the weather's like this, though, and it's not cold, that's a whole nother story, Kyle.
Yeah, man, you feel for the people with individual hardships, you know, like his situation. Spencer Soyser, thank you. Investigators in Arapahoe County say the late state senator Faith Winter was the one at fault for her fatal crash on I-25 last month, and an autopsy has found she had alcohol in her system. Winter, Democrat from Broomfield, was killed in a series of 2 crashes on I-25 south of Denver back on November 26. The Arapahoe County Sheriff's Office says there was an initial crash that stopped traffic, and then Senator Winter was the one who caused the second crash when she rear-ended a stopped truck that did not have visible taillights. The Arapahoe County Coroner's Office said today that Winter's blood alcohol level was the equivalent of 0.18. A 0.08 is a DUI in Colorado. Winter had publicly struggled with alcohol abuse for years. At one point, she apologized on the Senate floor for appearing at a community meeting while intoxicated last year. Her term in the state Senate would have been up next year. There's a small group of party insiders, a vacancy committee, that will meet next week and pick a replacement to serve out the remainder of her term. Organizations that help struggling families up and down the Front Range are especially on the lookout this time of year for families that might not be able to afford holiday gifts, and often they then refer them to the nonprofit A Precious Child. They put on a massive holiday gift drive that always has last-minute emergency additions. This year, Precious Child is trying to provide gifts to more than 10,000 children with our help. This week's Word of Thanks micro-giving campaign supports one of our favorite holiday efforts we return to year after year because of its enormous impact. And let me tell you more about why I love how Precious Child does this. They give the kids' gifts to the parents unwrapped so that the parents know what the kids are receiving, so the parents, caretakers have the joy and the dignity of wrapping the kids' presents themselves. They want to give the whole family the experience of holiday giving, and they aim to give each child 3 gifts. So often it's stuff like Legos or Barbies, arts and crafts supplies, clothes. For the youngest kids, stuffed animal and blankets are always a favorite as well. They tell me this year that the need is immense, that families are scared about how they're going to provide for their kids. Well, we can do something about that. Scan the QR code on your screen or text the word THANKS to 303-871-1491 to get the link to donate. And even $5 helps, because 5 years of pooling $5 donations has raised $17 million for nonprofits across our state. If you would like to join me in giving, please scan that QR code or text to give. Nearly 7,000 of you have signed up to make a monthly donation to the Word of Thanks Fund. You put in your info once. Each month, your donation is automatically split among the nonprofits we feature. In November, we have never seen this level of monthly giving generosity. You started us off with $50,000 in donations each week.
What we're doing is working, but that there's still a lot of work to accomplish.
Colorado State Patrol is changing its approach after falling short of an ambitious goal to reduce drunk driving. And a farewell to a familiar voice who spent decades on the air in Denver. That's next. Colorado State Patrol set out to reduce drunk driving crashes by 15% this year. They are not going to meet that goal. So next year, they're going to try some new ideas. The chief sat down with our Mark Salinger.
I wish you would have been with me yesterday. Driving on I-25, going to Fort Collins, and found myself at the scene of a fatal crash.
Even after 25 years as a Colorado State Trooper, every crash still makes an impact.
I don't even have a word.
On Colonel Matthew Packard.
The terror, the hurt, the agony, all of these things as a family is literally ripped apart.
At least 80 people have died so far this year in crashes involving impaired drivers, including a toddler killed by a suspected DUI driver in the crash the chief responded to this week.
And to know that people will make a selfish decision to do that to another family, it's awful. It's absolutely awful. And you can prevent it. So please do.
When 2025 started, State Patrol set a goal to reduce impaired driving crashes involving injury or death by 15% this year. They won't hit that. Crashes have gone down slightly. 585 last year, 574 so far this year. Colonel Packard is frustrated.
Everybody knows that driving drunk is not smart, but yet we can't seem to budge that number.
State Patrol brought back DUI checkpoints for the first time in nearly a decade this year. They've put an increased emphasis on statewide sobriety patrols and increased training for troopers. But next year, they want to try something new.
One thing that we can lean into more is really addressing this overarching issue of addiction.
About a third of all people nationwide arrested for drunk driving are repeat offenders. Using public health models, CSP wants to respond to DUIs in similar ways to how addiction specialists respond to overdoses.
I'd like to think that when you've just been arrested, that's probably where the regret is the most. And if I can put a phone number, a QR code, a resource, someone's name in front of them to say, when you wake up tomorrow morning and your head hurts, this is who you want to call so you can stop that from happening in the future, and maybe we can save a life that way too.
Those DUI checkpoints that State Patrol brought back this year are expensive and labor intensive, but the chief says they're worth it. Not necessarily for how many people they arrest that evening, but for how many people see them when they're driving by and decide that they shouldn't drink and drive.
Right? Hopefully it sticks in the back of their head.
Exactly.
You can see how it weighs on them. You really can.
Absolutely.
Right. Mark Salinger, thank you. A tribute to a longtime voice on Denver's Latin music scene.
It's a great loss for the community because there was no other one like Danny Valenzuela.
Colleagues of Danny Valenzuela remember the mark he left on this community. Next. Danny Valenzuela had a heart for radio. He was a DJ at KUVO in Denver for 30 plus years. He passed away last weekend, leaving an unforgettable legacy.
Bump it, bro. Turn up the monitor. So.
Okay.
You know, we're mostly all jazz. You know, what if we do like
Hey, I'm Danny Valenzuela.
a Latin show on Friday nights, and we call it the Latin Soul Party.
The Latin Soul Party!
We do mostly cater to our Chicano community in Denver.
It reflects on people's lives and memories, and it sparks emotions in their mind and in their heart.
So I could think of no other person to kick this off the ground, to get it off the ground, than Danny Valenzuela.
Well, Danny was our leader and mentor, and he's taken us all under his wing and guided us through music.
We just lost our leader, our mentor of the Latin Soul Party, the one that originally started this show 18 years ago, going on 19 years.
Danny Valenzuela had passed on.
Danny's always been a mentor to us, to me, the whole time. You know, we've been doing the show.
But when the guys do the show on Friday, you're gonna get the best of Danny Valenzuela.
Yeah, Friday night we're gonna do a tribute to our mentor, Danny Valenzuela. We're gonna be featuring voice clips from past shows.
Hey, I'm Danny Valenzuela.
When he came on the air, man, you know, forget about your troubles, man. We're here to have a really good time.
He's molded me into a way to carry on his legacy of his love for music, and it's just a great honor that we get to carry on his legacy.
He knew he trusted us to carry on and keep on doing, and he taught us a lot. We learned a lot from Danny, so that's why we're here.
We love you, Danny Valenzuela.
Your very personal stories of connection and your feedback next. We have been asking you lately to share how connection has changed your life for the better, because so much of what makes up the news is division. You have come through with a number of stories of inclusion and unity and connection, acts big and small. And that's the stuff that life is made of, right? Despite what they say on the news. A viewer named Tony wrote in about a connection that literally saved his life. I want to read his story in his words. He says, I am a heart and kidney recipient, and this is Cicely, the angel donor whose heart beats in my chest and kidney filters my blood. She also donated her other kidney to another individual and liver to another. And Robin, Cicely's mom, at the worst moment in her life, made sure that Cicely could fulfill her wish to be a donor. He wrote to us, I owe these two magnificent women everything, debt that can never be repaid. I do my best to live my best life and pay it forward. A bunch of viewers told us about a story of connection out of Elizabeth, Colorado. Austin's a sophomore with Down syndrome, and he met a senior football player, Luke Antonora, in PE class this year, and they struck up a friendship. Elizabeth High's varsity football team invited Austin to be their T receiver to run out after the kickoffs. They call him their lucky charm. They say his energy, his encouragement are big drivers behind that team's state championship run this year. We spoke to Austin, his family, and Luke this week, and they say that this is a connection that has benefited all of them.
This was above and beyond. This was seniors in particular, so upperclassmen that went out of their way to make Austin feel like one of the guys. He has been so excited to go to school and excited to see Luke.
The days that Austin would be there, he'd come into the locker room, the music's on, he's like dancing around and jumping around, having a good time. It kind of just brings everybody up.
And one more story of connection from an ex-viewer named Matt, who says that his time as a volunteer firefighter has been full of meaningful connections. Like the widow with vision problems who frequently calls 911 because she thinks she sees smoke in her house. Her son told firefighters they could stop coming because nothing's wrong. But Matt says they still show up every time, and they give that guy's mom a hug when they leave. Finish with your feedback via text. Chris Bianchi, I could never do your job with your producer chirping in your ear. I'd lose it and crawl off the set. No, most of the time she's chirping, she's nice. And when she's not, it's because we deserve it. See you next time.